Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2020 Chevy Silverado 2500, we're going to be showing you how to install the CURT EZr Underbed Gooseneck Trailer Hitch. Before we do that though, let's take a minute, we'll check this out and make sure it's going to be the right setup for you. When it comes to these gooseneck trailer hitches, I've personally installed quite a few of them on all different types of trucks, all the different manufacturers and everything. And whenever I do these CURT hitches, I find that they're definitely more well made than some of the other ones. And I say because just the fitment and everything's kind of thought out a little bit better. So you can't really go wrong. Another great choice when it comes to underbed hitches or anything like that for that matter is B&W. They make really good parts as well. But with this CURT one, it's a pretty clean fit. You know, you're gonna have full bed access up here, being that the whole entire hitch assembly lives underneath. Here's how the hitch looks, and because of this design, you know, that's going to give us that full bed access up top, since pretty much everything lives underneath here. And it's a pretty good fit. You know, didn't run into too many issues as far as, you know, clearance or anything like that. And one of the things that kind of separates this from some of the others is this pin here. So we can only see one of them right now, but there's two of these pins that run through here, and those will actually go through the goose ball, and that's what's going to help keep it in place. So you have double the contact points there, a little bit of extra peace of mind whenever you're pulling your trailer down the road. Here's a better look where those pins I was talking about, so they're going to go through both of those holes there in the ball. There's grooves in the ball too, so whenever you drop this in, you know, it's going to lock into place. It's not going to be able to rotate or anything like that. So pretty stout setup for sure, no doubt about it. And you're also able to store this in the trailer hitch too, which I'm a big fan of these types of designs because it's just easier to keep track of and everything. And you're not going to have this rolling around, you know, back of your truck or anything. There's a little handle there you can grab on. And of course, you know, if you're going down the road with it, I'd lock the handle so it'll be secure in there. And then they give you a little plug too to put in there. So I think it looks clean, and it's going to help keep the hole there and for your hitch protected from the elements. The hitch is going to work for short beds and long beds, so regardless what you got there, it'll be custom fit and everything will work out. Same's going to hold true for gas and diesels, regardless what you got. Everything's there for you to get it installed and set up on your particular truck. The ball is going to be 2 5/16 in diameter, which is pretty much a standard for gooseneck trailers. And it's going to have a 30,000 pound maximum gross trailer weight rating. So that's going to be the amount of weight pulling on the hitch. So the weight of your trailer plus anything you might have enter on it. And it's going to have a 7,500 pound tongue weight rating, meaning the amount of weight pushing down on the hitch. Now, with all that in mind, I do always like to recommend, it's always a good idea just to grab your truck's owner's manual. That way you can check in there and make sure it can handle that amount of weight safely. The safety chain openings are going to be spring loaded, so they pull down tight against the, you know, the bed of the truck. And when you're ready to hook onto them, you just lift them up like this. So it should help keep the chains more secure, being that there's some pressure on them. And when you're not using them, I feel like it would probably help a little bit, you know, for preventing these rattling around and stuff. So it should be a little bit quieter there. With that in mind, CURT does make some pretty cool accessories that you can use with this. One of them is an offset ball, meaning you would take it, you drop it here, and it would take the ball and set it further towards the back of the truck. So if you're worried about cab clearance issues, you know, that could buy you some more room, or being able to maybe have your tailgate down when you're hooking up to your trailer, whatever your situation is, that is available. And then they also have these adapters too, where you'd drop it down in there and allow you to convert this to a fifth wheel type setup. So if you ever find yourself in the future getting a fifth wheel or something along those lines, you know, you kind of get double use out of this particular hitch if you use an adapter like that. Other than that, you know, nice hitch all the way around once it's installed. I think the fitment's good. The fact that you can eventually get other accessories and do a lot of cool things with it, you really can't go wrong, to be honest with you. As far as the installation goes, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of tedious, definitely time consuming. The worst part, in my opinion, would be when you go to torque all the hardware down. There's a lot of a lot of hardware with some pretty high settings, and so, you know, it gives you a little bit of workout doing that. And just trying to kind of decipher the instructions, they're just not the clearest. So hopefully what I learned can help you get this installed on your truck. If this is something you don't even feel like messing with, don't have the time or place, I understand that. You can always use our dealer locator network, and hopefully that can help you find a shop in your neighborhood that can set it up for you. But if you're going to tackle this yourself, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead and get started on it now. To begin our installation, we're going to be underneath the back of our truck, and I just temporarily lowered and removed the spare tire. It gives us a lot more room to work. And we're going to do the same thing here with this heat shield. So this is going to be held in place with 2 fasteners. One of the fasteners is right here. These are going to have a 13mm head. Pull that one out. And there's one just a little bit ahead of it. And we'll set this to the side for now. We can move to our wheel well liners now, and if your truck is equipped with them, we're going to remove them. It just makes everything so much easier. There's a few different types of fasteners. We'll start first with our T15 Torx bit screws. They're just kind of scattered throughout the whole liner. So you just want to come in and get them all removed. Once you get all those Torx bits out, you'll have 2 of these little plastic nuts, one right here and then one just like it on the front side of the wheel well liner. So we'll pull those out, and then you'll have one fastener in the middle here. All it is, it's just a little plastic ring that you can turn by hand to get it removed. And we should be able to now start to remove our liner. Just want to carefully work it out. Once we get this removed, we'll set it off to the side and then do the same exact thing to get the liner on the other side of our truck removed. With that liner out of the way, over here on the passenger side, if you look through this opening, we're going to have a bolt holding a heat shield down right here, and then one just like it, you know, a foot or 2 towards the front. And that heat shield's going to have to be completely removed. So we'll pull out these 2 fasteners, and they're going to have a 13mm head. Here's that other one I was talking about, just ahead of the one we just removed. We'll do the same thing here. Now there are going to be a couple more holding the shield in place, but we're going to have to go underneath the truck to get access to those. There's a fastener right here. It's a little tricky to see because the head of it's on top of this cross member, but it's the same exact style of fastener that we just removed. Last but not least, if you follow the heat shield all the way forward on the next cross member, another one of those fasteners. And that should be the last thing holding this in place. And what we're able to do is get it removed from our vehicle. We are going to lower our exhaust a little bit. It just makes it much easier to get the hitch up in place, a lot more room. So we have a hanger here by the tailpipe. You can spray it down with some soapy water, some sort of lubricant, make it easier. And if you got a big pry bar or screwdriver, you can work that end off. We're gonna have a couple more towards the front of the truck that we can remove like this as well. Those two other hangers are just behind our big muffler here, and what I did was take a strap and just kind of run it across the exhaust system, so when we undo those hangers, it'll have some support. And they're going to work the same way as that one we just took off. So we should be able to now kind of loosen up our strap and just let the exhaust come down a little bit. You can grab your cross members now, and these are going to have threaded holes in them. And sometimes what can happen is the powder coating that is sprayed on these can get down into the threads. So before you put them up there, I suggest taking the bolts that go into them and just running them through. Make sure that they go in nice and easy. That way you're not trying to fight with it while you're holding up heavy stuff underneath the truck bed. That's really all there is to it there. If you need to, you can always use a tap like this as well. It's a 1/2 inch by 13. And when you run that down through the holes, it more or less makes them like brand new again. So that's always an option too if you have one of these laying around the house. Before we put our cross members in, I do want to mention something here. So if you look at the outermost holes, they're offset towards one side, meaning that these aren't centered perfectly, So the side that the hole is closest to, you're going to want that to face towards the frame or down towards the ground. You can get our cross members in place now. What they have you do is slide these in and then try to rotate them upward. And a lot of times you just don't have the room, and what will end up happening is you'll have to loosen up all your bed bolts to give you that little bit of clearance. And so I wanted to try something because I've done this before on other gooseneck kits, and I just came here to this little pinch weld and used a Dremel tool to just cut a small opening out on that pinch weld. It's not jeopardizing any structural integrity or anything like that. So I cut that out. And what that's going to do is give us the ability now to take these and just put them in how we need them to be without having to rotate and go through all that trouble to remove bed bolts. So you can do this if you want. It's totally up to you. If not, you'll probably have to end up loosening the bed bolts and everything, but we'll go ahead and push that all the way over to the other side of the frame and get both of them in here. We're able to get the center section in place now. They give you this locator tool here, right? Before you put this up into position, you want to put that into the gooseneck hole opening. I just take a little bit of packing tape too and tape it there just to keep it in place better. But this hole is also offset. You want this offset hole to be towards the back of the truck. And so that's why, just to help me out, I write rear and front on it. And the bolts that you're going to use to secure the center section, you'll have 4 on each side of this here. And they're going to thread into those cross rails. You're just going to have a 1/2 inch bolt and a conical tooth washer. When you put the washer on, make sure that the teeth are facing away from the head of the bolt. So you'll have it like this. I'll grab the center section here and get it loosely into position. I was able to get the center section in and got all that hardware hand tight for now. Really no special way to do this. It's heavy for sure. You just lift it up and line everything up. If you're fighting with one bolt, not wanting to line up, just try a different one. And it seems like the more you get them started, the better everything lines up and the easier it gets. We can work on our side plates now, and these are side specific, so make sure to check your instructions, see the diagram, make sure you got the right one. But pretty easy. The part that kind of comes down and is a little bit longer, that should be towards the back of the truck. So this is going to sit something like that. And this hole is going to line up with this hole in the frame. You're going to take one of the big carriage bolts and a spacer block, put that on like that, and then take one of the pull wires, thread it onto the carriage bolt. And we're going to pass the bolt into the frame, and then the spacer block. You can pull it out, and then you'll grab your side plate, take that end of the fish wire, put it through that big hole there. I'll pull that hardware through there. Go ahead and remove the pull wire. You can take a flange nut and just get that started hand tight, you know, just a couple threads so the bolt don't fall back into the frame. We can then grab a U-bolt, and on our truck we're going to be using this hole and this one. So the U-bolt will go from the inside around the frame and come out through here. If you happen to have a long bed truck, I believe you're going to be using these holes, and there's another little bracket that you'll have to set up as well on those. So if that's what you got, double check the instructions. We do not have a long bed, so we don't have to worry about that. But just wanted to give you a visual on the attachment points that we're going to be using, and we can get the U-bolt in now. All you're going to have to do when you're underneath the truck is just take that U-bolt, slide it around the frame, make sure you're not pinching any wires or anything. Which over here on the passenger side we're clear. Driver's side's a little different, I'll show you that in a minute. But just hold that in place and then we can get our nut started on the outside. The hardware that you're going to use on the end of the U-bolt is just going to be a flange nut. I have, of course, the one up top here. And one on the bottom. Just get them hand tight. On our truck, over on the driver's side, when I went to go put that U-bolt in, these brake lines were in the way, and so there's this bracket and just a couple of 13mm head bolts. If you want to pull them out, that'll let you kind of maneuver this around and make it easier to get that U-bolt through. We can get side plates attached to our cross rails, so you got this attachment point, this one here. In the kit, you're going to have some big 5/8 bolts. 4 of them will be a little bit longer than the rest of them. You want to deal with these long ones. And you want to take a big flat washer, put that over, and then these are just going to thread through the side plate and into the cross member there. So get that one started hand tight. Same thing for this one here. Moving back underneath the truck now, the kit's going to have these brackets here. And the way these are going to work is they're going to go in between the cross members. So say my hand's the back cross member, this one's the front. It'll sit like that. And there's some threaded holes in the cross members that these are going to line up with. The hardware that you're going to use, you're going to have a large 5/8 bolt, and it's one of the shorter ones, and then one of the one of these type of washers here. They're a little bit smaller in diameter. Put that through, it'll run through like that, and you'll just thread that into the cross member. Here's where we're putting this bracket. All right, so I got one side going already, but all you'll do is just line everything up and get them started hand tight. And then once this is done, you're going to repeat all them same steps that we just did over on the driver's side of the truck to get that side plate installed. You can start to tighten down our hardware. Not a bad idea either, just to visually look, make sure your hitch is centered and everything. If you need to bump it one way or the other, you can do that. You know, usually once all the brackets are roughly in place, it's pretty much dead on. So we're in good shape there. But when you snug this hardware down, you want to use a particular order. And I'm going to start with these brackets underneath, and these bolts are going to have a 15/16 head on. You come to the outside of the side plate now. We'll snug down this big nut here. That's a 15/16. Then we can switch over to a 3/4 inch socket and tighten up the U-bolt nuts. And when you do this, try to run them down evenly. That way it draws together or draws out even. So I usually just do a couple of turns. Kind of working back and forth here until we get it snug. Then of course you do the same process to the other side of the truck. We can snug up all the hardware hole in the center section to our cross members. These are just a 3/4 inch head bolt. And I just kind of like to try to work my way around it just to draw everything up even. Then you can come back and snug down these big bolts up here that go through the side plate and into the cross rails. Not gonna lie, this one's kind of a pain because your regular socket, you try to get it on there, this is in the way, but there's really no other way around it because they want you to tighten this and draw it all the way out before this one. So it's your call what you do. What I did was just use a box wrench like this, you know, and was able to tighten it up that way. And finally we can come back using a torque wrench and that same process and tighten everything down to the amount specified in the instructions. Once all your bolts are torqued down, if you remember that little orange piece that we put in the center section before we raised it up, we're going to use that as a template. All right, so if you take your drill, put a 3/16 bit on it, you can go through the center of it. We're just going to drill that out. That way we have a pilot hole to work with. And of course my bit gets stuck out there. It's not a big deal. It might be easier to get from the top. So that's what I'll do. My drill did go through there. Like I said, the bit just got stuck in it. I'll just pull it out from the top when we get up there. But while we're down here, we can also drill out our safety chain openings. On each side of our center section, you're gonna have 2 holes here, and those are gonna be for our safety chains. And you'll just use the hitch as a template and a 5/8 drill bit to drill those out. Up in the bed of the truck now, you can take a hole saw and using that little pilot hole that we made, you can create an opening. I like to just take a sheet of plywood and do one of these deals to help prevent this hole saw from walking. So we'll go ahead and get this drilled out here. When you're drilling this, you want to check every now and again too, because you just want to cut through it. So as soon as you start to see that orange, you know you're in good shape there. I got just a little bit more. You should be able to pull this piece out. So that came out, and it looks like we're in pretty good shape here. After the hole was drilled, I came back, cleaned up all the metal shavings, kind of, you know, filed down all the sharp edges. And I came back with a paint stick and painted the raw metal just so we don't have to worry about rust or anything. And I did that for our safety chain openings too. They give you this trim ring and this little piece of rubber. I'm going to use the trim ring. I'm not going to use this though. I don't really ever have before, and that's just because it's so hard to get on there. It just doesn't really fit in my opinion. So up to you if you want to use this or not. But with this, just lines on up, and then they give you these little screws. It's an Allen key. I got a 3mm here. I'll go ahead and get all these started. It's a lot easier to start them all before you come back and tighten them. That way they're all lined up and everything. We'll get these snug down. We can grab our safety chain U-bolts and drop them down to the bottom side of our truck. Back underneath the truck where the safety chain U-bolts come down, what you want to do is take a flat washer and put that on, and then a spring. And then you'll take another flat washer, put that on, and you'll have a nylon lock nut. So get all of them started hand tight, and then what you want to do is snug these up with the 15/16. It's flush with the bottom of the bolt. You can grab your handle now, and there's a little hole in it, and that'll line up with our mechanism here in a moment, but you want to take it and run it over the frame. And it's tricky to see, so bear with us here, but on the side of the center section there's a hole that you can pass that handle through. All right, and what you want to do is, once you pass that through, take a flat washer, put it on there. And then you got this big spring as well. You put that on. And you're going to have this pin mechanism. You see there's a little hole in there and one there. So the handle is going to go into that hole. The hole in the handle is going to line up with that. And that's how you can secure it. So get that started. Like I said, it's real difficult to see. So I was able to line the handle up, and you just take the little bolt that they gave you, push it through. There's a real itty bitty nylon lock nut that you'll put on the other side to secure it. And then I'm just going to come back and snug it down, 5/16 socket and wrench. We can start to get our truck reassembled in terms of rehanging the exhaust, putting our spare tire heat shield, and all those other components back in place, the fender liners, so on and so forth. They're going to go back together the opposite way that you removed them. On the driver's side, when I put the wheel well liner back, it did cover up our handle here that you use to, operate the hitch. So I did come in with some scissors and just cut an opening out large enough to get in there and be able to work it. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the CURT EZr Underbed Gooseneck trailer hitch on our 2020 Chevrolet Silverado 2500.